Please, but not too much, right? Okay. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here to share in our journey that we're going to share with you. I am Karen Petney, the coordinator of state and federal projects at Coachella Valley Unified. And also here today is Tara Hinton. She is the principal of Seaview Elementary, one of our 3 CSI schools. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Lisa and Colleen for all the support and guidance they provide to us year after year. So to help us get where we are and hopefully help us get where we're going to go in the future. So we're going to talk about a comprehensive approach to supporting school plans for student achievement. And as Colleen pointed out, there are a lot of allowable activities for Title I and CSI. And you can't focus on everything. We had to really prioritize and start with what we could do and be successful at. So we focused on building the capacity of our people at our district level and our sites, as well as conducting the needs assessments and analyzing that data, using data and outcomes to make decisions and drive decisions and discussions. And then also to really look at our resource inequities, which I'm not sure up until that point that we had really taken a good look at those. And as Tara can attest to, when she first redid her SIPSA, one of the phrases was, "We have no resource inequities." So we had to shift from that mindset to really looking at what is there. So in 2019, that is our dashboard. 2019, we had 17,787 students and a very high low-income population at 94%. And English learners at 41.4%. And then moving forward 3 years, we lost 1,100 students. And also our low-income percentage went down. So as you know, when you do the LCAP with LCFF, that was less dollars that we had to work with also. And we had a slight increase in English learners and our foster youth. So referring back to what Colleen was sharing, I love this statement that we have to understand the problem and the system that produces it. Because if we don't, we're just kind of like whack-a-mole and we're really like spreading our efforts wide and very shallow. So that was our first aha. Understand what is going on. This is our overall dashboard for 2019, and as you can see, all of our indicators are red or orange except for one yellow, which was suspension. So we had some work to do. We had 3 sites that were identified for CSI in 2019. La Familia, it would be their second year in 2019 that they were in CSI, and then Seaview was identified primarily for chronic absenteeism and math. And also West Shores High School was identified, and they are actually a 7th through 12th grade school. So in addition, we had 4 ATSI schools. We had Desert Academy, which is one of our middle schools. Bobby Duke exited CSI from 2018, but they became ATSI in 2019. Coachella Valley High School and Desert Mirage. So this was LAFA's dashboard, and the majority of their indicators were red and orange, except for one green graduation. So this is how they were identified. And this is Seaview's dashboard, all red and orange. And this is the dashboard for West Shores High School. So this is their basis of their being identified. So I know there's a lot on this roadmap because it did feel like a lot. So as you can see, it's been 5 years. It's hard to believe, but it has been 5 years since we first entered CSI and we had the schools identified. And then in 2019, we were able to exit 1 CSI school, but we gained 2 more. So then we had 3 CSI schools and 4 ATSI. So in 2021, we attended the workshops that Colleen and Lisa held through our SUI in person and virtually for our ATSI and our CSI schools. And then we also provided at a district level SIPSA workshops for all of our schools because we wanted to really build the capacity of all of our schools, not just our CSI and ATSI, to help move forward as a district. So we offered those workshops, and I'll talk a little bit about them more in a minute. But it gave principals a time and a space to come and work on their SIPSAs, confer with their colleagues, and talk about best practices. And so I always hear from principals that they really appreciated that structure and that time and space. And then also we're working individually with our CSI sites for some extra special intensive care. And then we were not able to exit any schools in 2020 or 2021 due to not having a dashboard. So during that time, we are still working with our schools. We're attending the RCA workshops. We're helping them do their needs assessments. And then in 21-22, we started out the year similarly. We are working with our schools, but we also knew like we needed more. We needed more. So luckily, Colleen and Lisa were able to come out and support us in person with 3 of our schools, those 3 CSI schools. And we did 3 workshops, which Tara participated in that first go round. And we as a district were like, why can't we do this for all of our schools? Like this is information everyone needs to know how to do a needs assessment and root cause analysis and look at all their initiatives and narrow down what's working and what's not. So that's what we planned for this year. And that's where we are right now in 22-23 is all of our schools are going through a series of 6 workshops led by Colleen and Lisa, and we're doing the work. They're bringing their leadership teams, and really the feedback has been great. And so now we're looking at what do we do next year? How do we keep growing this? How do we keep improving this? And this is just an example of a schedule from the SIPSA workshops that we did at CVUSD. And we did them starting in 2019 in person and 2020 in person until March, and then they were virtual in 21 also. But each session was a time and a place for them to come. We talk about a new topic like doing needs assessment or stakeholder engagement, but also we'd also have time for them to ask questions that maybe were more relevant or pertinent to what they were going through in their school at the time, and ask questions of other principals, share information. And so again, they really appreciate that time and space to just shut everything out and focus on doing their school plans. So going back 21-22, we had change of administration at 2 of our CSI schools. And we just wanted to get a baseline of where they are, like where in the CSI process, because here we are 3 years into CSI, but we have, had teachers change, staff change, leadership change. So where are they so that we know how to best support them going forward this school year? And then also did like a crash course in CSI for new administrators. And these were some of the questions we asked them, like, do you have a CSI team at your site? And if you do, what data are you looking at? And then do you have like another team that's really taking a deep dive into your data? Are you identifying problems and creating problem statements just to get an idea of where they needed more support on our end? And again, no exit in 2021. So we began to really focus our collective efforts because it does take a village, and it takes everyone being ready and willing to do the work, because it is hard work. Everyone's already inundated with responsibilities, but really to make progress, we have to really focus all of those efforts. So we collaborated with West Ed through our COE. We used some of our CSI funds to collaborate with West Ed, and in that spring of 21. And you can see the team representatives from all the different departments at our CVUSD district office, and also a couple of the CSI principals as well. And then, so what we looked at was realigning our LCAP goals to our 5 pillars of success, with the 8 state priorities. So we had to create a crosswalk, which I was going to include and I didn't, so I will share that with you. So, we had to create a crosswalk to see how that all goes together. And that for us was important because, and you'll see in a minute, we had prioritized our, what we call big rocks. West Ed helped us discover our big rocks. And so they were aligned also to our LCAP goals. And so that was the work that we did, our big rocks. And also at that time in our district, I'm sure yours as well, social emotional learning was a great need. We're back on campus after being out for a year and a little bit more. And our stakeholders, our educational partners wanted to know how we were going to mitigate learning loss and also how we were going to have welcoming school environments for our students where they're going to feel safe and want to come to school and be connected. So those were some of the challenges that we looked at in 2021. And then at our staff retreat at the end of June, we rolled out phase 1, and then also explained that phase 2 was going to be, we were going to be designing system improvements, and then also our big rocks. So the first column, the district vision. So what our expectation was as a district working with West Ed and RCOE was that we would do a comprehensive needs assessment, and that we would all know how to do a needs assessment, and then start to know what to do once we know what those needs are. And so that was phase 1. Phase 2, we were designing systems, working with RCOE and West Ed. And they were student-centered and equity focused. The support that we received from our friends at RCOE, they helped us to look at our SIPSs, identify strengths and weaknesses and gaps, and then make sure we were moving towards that alignment between our SIPSs. We had already aligned our LCAP with our pillars and the 8 state priorities, and now we wanted to bring our SIPSs in and align them as well. And they provided training for our school sites. So what we learned at our district level and RCOE learned as well was that site leadership really did benefit from that integrated support, that ongoing support and coaching. And there was a common need for doing needs assessments and being inclusive of doing the root cause analysis and doing the initiative mapping and seeing and Tara will talk a little bit more about the initiative mapping, where you have all these initiatives, and yet the dashboard indicator for those initiatives is not moving at all. So really taking a look at, are we doing it just because we're doing it, or can we abandon it? And then we wanted to align our SIPSA goals with our LCAP. And then also, I don't know, you can see it at the bottom, you can see it on your presentation. When we looked at our SIPSAs for our CSI schools, it was sometimes difficult to find the CSI plan within the SIPSA. So we really wanted to make sure that that was predominant in those school SIPSAs. If you have questions, just anytime, just ask. So here we are, we're generating ideas for change. And meanwhile, we are also testing and building evidence to see trying on different things to see what might work, what's working. And so we designed a number of improvement strategies and a number of systems. And one of them was the SCED matrix that helped us as a district to look through the lens of equity when we are deciding, when we're doing our needs assessment and looking at evidence-based interventions and putting those dollars behind action. What is the most equitable way to do that? And also we did a progress monitoring log. We have them for each school. And then we also created one for the district level. So for every action in our LCAP, what's the metrics, who's monitoring it, how are we monitoring it, how often are we monitoring it, and similarly for our schools. And then we also did a monthly discussion guide. So each month throughout the year, these are the topics that should be discussed, whether it's with your school site council or your EL team, your academic team at your site. These are the kind of questions we want to be generating answers to. And then we also did a matrix for our stakeholder involvement. Because what we learned a couple of years back was we would have LCAP focus groups, and we would have, all cross section of educational partners, parents, students, community members, staff. And sometimes parents didn't feel comfortable expressing all of their thoughts and ideas when there were, other like administrators or staff in the room. So we took the approach, we created separate focus groups for each of those educational partners. And then we led up to a larger LCAP focus group that had representatives from each focus group. So they had opportunity to really share what was foremost on their mind, and then also come together as a larger group. And that worked really well. So this matrix that we created listed all of our groups and who would facilitate those groups and how often and what kind of discussions would be informing, would be consulting or collaborating. So that has worked really well. We're in our second year of doing that, and we get really great feedback on that. And then, so the second half of 21-22, we're doing professional development. We're working with our COE and those, in particular, those 3 schools. So our expectations doing those workshops with our 3 schools was that they were going to build their capacity, which CSI funds. It's a lot of money for schools that aren't used to, it's more money than our schools have ever seen on an annual basis. So for them, for a school that gets $30,000, like our continuation school, to get $170,000, it's a lot. And I'm sure you have experienced that as well. It's a lot of money for them to really make a plan for. And so that's what we assisted them with. And this was part of building capacity, not necessarily buying programs, but really investing in our people and our workshops, and really having those data teams that Tara will talk more about, and just starting those processes at your school rather than buying an intervention program. So it's really, and that is something that will be more sustainable as we go on, and the money's not there in the future, but you have already built that culture at your school. So that was the expectation for our sites. And then what we learned was, while those 3 days were awesome because we had never had that before, it wasn't enough. We needed more time. Our schools needed more time. And that co-planning was very beneficial. And in those workshops, we would have all of directors and coordinators from Ed Services as well. So if you had a question, hey, what is this? What do you think this looks like? Or could we do that? Everyone was in the room, so they had direct access to, get those answers. And so because that worked so well, in phase 3, we're spreading and scaling. And that's where we are this year with all of our schools coming to 6 full-day workshops throughout the year. We started in November, and we were going to go through April, but then we added workshop number 7 because our principal said, like, we're doing all of these activities and processes, but could we have one more day just to bring it all together and sit down with our team and actually put it together and draft our SIPSA? And we were like, yeah, we could do that. So we are doing that.
We're celebrating that quite loudly over here.
Yes, I'm like, I think that could be arranged. Yeah. So luckily we were able to do that. And so Lisa and Colleen had some free days, and we scheduled that. So this is on the left, but yeah, left, my right, your left. This is the content of those workshops. And I'm not going to read them all because you'll have them in the presentation. But so we tried to take those 3 days and think about what we didn't have time really to get deep into in those 3 days and spread it out over 6. And then what we were finding by the time we were on day 2 was maybe we're going to need a little more time. And some things had to push to workshop 3 and from 3 to 4, because really what the teams valued was being there and doing the needs analysis or doing the root cause analysis and really knowing how to do it before they take it back to their site and do it with their larger leadership team. So that's what we built in workshops 3, 4, and 5, is that team time for them that they really appreciated. And on the right are some comments from the workshop participants. And I particularly like the very useful yet stressful, because it is a lot, it's a lot to go through that process. And we have teachers and assistant principals that really had never had any exposure to some of these things. So it's a great building capacity for them as well, learning experience. And so our next steps are in July and August to work with Lisa and Colleen to go to compare our this year's SIPSAs with our next year's SIPSAs that we're currently writing and hopefully see the growth. And then also maybe, see maybe where there's still some gaps that we can support going into next year. So challenges, and there were challenges. Leading a change cycle is never easy in the first place, but doing it through a pandemic, it is particularly stressful. We had staff shortages, as I'm sure you all have, sub shortages. So to do a training and not be able to release people from their sites because there aren't subs. And then also we really weren't able to meet a lot out of the school hours because staff, teachers, they're tired. Like that was that first year back on campus, and they, by the end of the day, they're just done. And we had change in staffing. We had new admin, and pandemic. I heard that term in one of the RCV workshops that I attended, and I thought, yes, that is it, because there's so much new funding that has come to us in the last few years, but all of that funding has reporting and accountability and monitoring attached to it too. And that all, is time intensive. And then we as a district did not have a uniform diagnostic assessment tool. We did not have an iReady. And so in the absence of a dashboard in 20 and 21, we didn't really have a lot of data to analyze. So last year we did implement iReady, and now we're in year 2, and we are loving it because we're having data more than once a year, and we're having regular data that we really need to make those decisions. And then at the site level, challenges are site admin were asked to do way more with less, and they were covering classes and they're covering lunch periods. And again, they don't have subs, and not all their job positions are filled. And high absenteeism, and again, staff by the end of the day, they're done. And by spring break, they don't want to do an intervention workshop because, they're tired. And so that was all, and any tutoring had to happen during the day. We had to work it into our master schedule because there just wasn't the interest and availability to have after school tutoring going on. And of course, everyone dealing with the learning gaps through the pandemic. And conducting a meaningful needs assessment when the needs are many. There's so many, and you do the needs assessment, and then you're like, where do we start? And Tara's going to talk a little bit more about that. And of course, there are successes. So we really count our collaboration with Best Ed and RCV among our successes. It's really helped us to be focused too. And we did identify our 3 rocks, which were implementation of our transformational justice model, district-wide, which is a blend of PBS and restorative justice and transformational learning. And then our second big rock was tier 1 instruction, best first instruction. And third was using data to drive discussions and decisions, which we were finally having data now that we were using iReady. And so these 3 rocks, we informed everyone everywhere because we wanted everyone to know this is going to be our focus moving forward. And creating the tools and the framework with the work that we did with West Ed. And then the workshops, just facilitating those workshops has meant so much to our principals and their leadership teams, and having like systemic practices. Everyone's on the same page, everyone's getting the same information, everyone's moving forward together. And at the school level, I think, and I've been in Coachella almost 10 years, and that was the first time that I'm aware that we had any kind of ongoing systemic training for our, in that manner for our schools. So I think as school teams being able to learn all, how to do that needs assessment or have a refresher and doing the plan, do study act cycles, which really wasn't occurring on a widespread basis at the time. And identify the problems and doing the problem, drafting the problem statements, and then just pulling it all together in their school plans. Some of the successes. And here we are in 2022. This is our dashboard, our cell phone dashboard. And We have 2 schools in CSI this year. Our one continuation school did not exit because of their graduation rate, because we no longer have a DAS, so they're compared with all other schools. So ironically, the graduation rate is why they're identified for CSI, which was their only green indicator in when they first got into CSI. So, and then one of our middle schools got identified, Toro Canyon Middle School. And then we have, out of the other 19 schools, 17 of them are in ATSI. So we are happy that we have started this process this year and bringing all of our schools in, because we knew at some point, schools are going to come in and out of ATSI or CSI, and why not have everybody have the same training and foundation? So that's where we are. And now I'm going to